been in the infantry. And then the big hunky guys, they would be in the artillery because they'd have to hump guns around, pick them up, move them around, roll them back, roll them here, roll them there. So, and lift those things up to hook them on the limber.
They soldered the cans shut with lead. So you ended up with lead poisoning, and this happened to continue right on up until, I believe it was the Spanish-American War in the 1890s. What I have right here is a daily ration for a soldier that's on garrison duty, the daily ration during garrison duty during the 1861 through 1865. They did not get issued things in glass jars. These are just to show you what they are. Basically, what they did is when they rationed stuff out, they rationed it by companies. This is showing a company ration. This is for one man here, this is for another man, and this is for a third man. These two items here, just to show you, the rations were set up for 100 men. Like the pepper ration, when they're in garrison duty, they got 1/400th of an ounce of pepper. The reason being that they issued one company of men, 100 men, 4 ounces of pepper. So you divide that up by 100 and you get 400ths of an ounce. On garrison duty, the men were issued 1 pound, 6 ounces of flour, each man. What they used it for, that's a lot of flour per man. What they probably did is they got together, 4, 5, 6 guys got together and had somebody bake bread out of it. They can make 2 or 3 loaves of bread out of it. On the marching rations for the soldier was hardtack. It's these biscuits here. You see how they're pretty hard. I got some broken up biscuits here. Hang on, I'll hand them out.
Pass it around. It's really wonderful.
These are just the flour, a cup of flour, a teaspoon of salt, and about a half a cup of water. It's baked about 300 degrees each side. They bake these things in the northern states. By the time they got to the soldiers, might have been 6 months later. They could have gotten wet at the time. They could have got weevils in it, but they ended up hard as rocks. Now, that's called hardtack. Actually, these go back to about 3,000 years ago. The Egyptians had these, the Romans and Greeks had them. These were called sea biscuits in the Navy during that time. Christopher Columbus probably had these on his ship when he discovered America. They learned a long time ago that they could bake this stuff and make it last for months. As long as you kept it dry and kept the weevils out of it, you're in good shape. These were got hard. They called them tooth rollers, sheet iron shingles, or worm castles. These are called worm castles. If they got a little bit wet, they ended up being moldy, and they also got maggots in them. They also got weevils in them. The soldiers were issued green coffee beans. Coffee beans were issued to them green. I thought the coffee at that time came from Africa, but I discovered later that we were actually the Union was actually getting their coffee from Brazil at that time. It was issued to them green. The soldiers baked roasted the coffee beans in a frying pan over a fire, and that's how they roasted the beans. They put the beans in a sock or put it in a rag and smashed it with a rock or a pistol butt or something like that. They mixed the sugar ration with that. The daily ration sugar, along with the daily ration coffee, and they mixed that up together. And when they stopped to eat, when they were marching, they would boil some water, put a tablespoon of coffee and sugar in a cup or a boiler, and heat that up. If they wanted something to eat, these were too hard to chew on, so they mashed them up and they put them in their coffee. Of course, if they had weevils in them, they took the weevils off, or maggots or whatever, and went ahead and ate it and drank the coffee. However, when they got down to the bottom, they had coffee grounds, so they're eating hardtack and coffee grounds with it, so food wasn't too good in those days. But you can get a lot of food in there. Hang on a minute, I'll show you.
Good to go.
Can't come any punishment.
So you see, I got everything that's in that basket. I got in this hat. I carry this hat on my arm along with my rifle, and when I stopped in the evening, I had me some snacks with apples. I had me some carrots, a potato, pear, peach. Usually they pick stuff out of the orchards. Usually they didn't dig up potatoes or things like that, but just paper, whatever. One other thing is,
First thing you do when you get on your horse, you count off by 4s. Now they're going to get up to the opposite end of the field. Left about wheel, march! A left about wheel is a 180-degree turn, and you go back the opposite way. Now they're going back the opposite way. Again, they're in a column of 2s, and the 1 and 2 are in front, 3 and 4 are behind them, then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so far with 100 guys on out, that's one whole company. Right about wheel, march! And so they turn to the right and they go back the other way. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. Right turn! Forward! Halt! Prepare to fight on foot! Come forward, take a knee. At the command, come forward, prepare to fight on foot. The 1, 2, 3, and 4 horses stop. The number 1, 2, and 3 person get off. The number 1 person is always the corporal or the sergeant. The 2 and 3 get off and line up with this gentleman right here on the grass. And the number 4 person takes all 4 horses now that are linked up, and she rides or he rides. There's no women in the Civil War, not officially anyway, although we know 480 of them snuck in and actually fought in the Union Army. And actually we had a whole battery of females in the Confederacy out of Louisiana that fought officially. So the horse handler, the number 4, takes the 4 horses and leaves. So out of every 4 guys in the cavalry, only 3 are going to be firing their carbine. So now this gentleman is on the ground. He's firing his carbine 6 rounds a minute, knocking the Confederates over as they come close. Now the infantry is getting closer, 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 closer. So at this point, they're getting a little too close. So you yell, "Rally the mounts!" At this point, the horses are brought forward. Now, you can also do it the other way. The infantry, or the guy on the ground, he can also go back to the horse. What you want to do is protect the horse at all costs. You can't get any horses. When the Confederates made a raid on a Union general, and they captured him, he was sleeping naked in bed, actually, and the Confederate took his saber out and slapped him on the buttocks with it, woke him up, and he captured himself a general. He also took 80 horses. Lincoln was informed that one of his general officers had just been captured along with 80 horses, and he says, you know what, I can make anybody a general, but those 80 horses, I'm going to miss them. So the horses come up, the gentleman gets, the 1, 2, and 3 guy get back on the horses, and then they ride off. This time we're going to ride off by file, march! Quickly, the Confederates are coming. That led to the old statement, you never see a dead cavalryman, which the cavalrymen didn't like to hear because there were a lot of cavalry guys that got killed in the Civil War. But they would ride off to the next fence line at the next farm. They would get off their horse, get down on the ground behind the rock wall, and shoot at the Confederate infantry again. In the beginning of the war, the Confederates had the better cavalry, or sound 2 horse, or what's the other one? 2 horse and I can't think of many, but there's breakfast call and lunch call, and there's church call and school call, and this goes on and on and on. And then there's maneuver calls when you're in combat that would be sounded. So you'd have to pay attention and be listening for this. You'd also have to be watching that flag right there. It's called a guidon. That flag is always kept by the captain because when you're out there on horseback and you're riding around and there's a lot of dust and smoke and everything else and a lot of noise and confusion, you can look around and see where that flag is, and you know you stick close to that flag, you're with your group. The Confederates had their own battle flag, the crossed flag with the stars on it. That was their battle flag. Okay, we've done a demonstration. We talked about the food. We talked about the weapons. Talked about uniforms. One other little oddity that came out in '64, the guy named Spencer invented a carbine called the Spencer carbine. He showed it to the War Department. They didn't want to buy buy it because it used too much ammunition. But he wouldn't take no for an answer, so he went to the White House, talked to Lincoln. Lincoln went out back of the White House, put a target on a tree. Spencer gave him the carbine. Lincoln fired it 7 times. Liked it. He ordered the Army to buy the Spencer carbine. So the Spencer carbine at 64 started replacing the Sharps carbine. Sharps carbine could fire 6 times a minute. Spencer 21 times a minute. I'll show you how that works.
Smith?
That's what I'm doing.
You will also see mini guns lighted in midair. You want to get 400 people doing
All right, in the Civil War, you would fight shoulder to shoulder. You would move out as a group, and you would always stay shoulder to shoulder. You would always have one person in the front, one person in the back. Everybody in the back, take one step forward so you're closer to the front. Take a step closer to the front. Use the line. At this point, we're going to turn half left and we're going to fire into their flank. We've partially flanked them, but now they're turning to avoid us. So Confederates, left hand on, right, face, look, forward, hard, right turn, hard, up, in a line, in a column, march down.
Thaddeus blowing his crazy balloon. Before that, the artillery had to see their target so they could shoot at it. This time, they didn't see their target. They just fired their guns, and when their shells landed, Thaddeus would tell them to adjust it by moving left or right, longer or shorter range. And actually chased a whole bunch of Confederate officers out of a tree line. And there's some talk about the officers that were chased out of the being they can't be proved.
They can probably hear you.
Had those artillery shells knocked the war would have come to a screeching halt. Well, that's sort of what it did. 1861 to 1865, we lost 607,000 Americans in the World War.
0666. Hold on, I love my guns. Here goes one. There's that damn bow beaming away.
Who can shoot faster?
No, they're pretty funny because I was
kick him a couple times just to make sure.
Make sure he's dead.
How many times did the Union soldier fire that weapon? 3 times. Okay, we'll go 3. How many times did we get off on the Confederate side? 5 times. Not too bad. By Army Regulation 1861, the infantry soldiers from Texas.
I'll trust you with this one because it doesn't have the same place.
Be sharp, be very careful with it. I want you spread out. I will say fix. What you do is you bring you're in the position of attention. You go that way. Fix. You bring your right to your left hand and loosen your bayonet. Then it goes to draw. Do not draw. Bayonet. Do not do it now. Just watch. Draw the bayonet. Have your little thing on it. You put it. Okay. Slide it. Go clockwise once, all the way down. For this happens, okay, fix your bayonets. First time, you know how to do it, right? Okay, now you put yours on and fix. Don't fix them yet. He'll say fix. Don't fix. No! Fix means you put it in your left hand. You wait for the bayonets order. Don't listen to Bryce, listen to me. Okay. Put yours on now. Okay, this is just an example. Go fix!
Man, you're just looking so spiffy.
Safety's turned over and won't slide all the way down. Make sure it's over. Once it slides all the way down, the safety's right here. You'll turn it to the right.
Your rifle.
Rifle.
Bayonet now on. Offset.
Maybe fell.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Fix, bayonet! Fix! Get ready to pull it
They're going
out.
to fuck.
Bayonet!
Oh, yeah.
They're learning how to charge. There you go. Can we go again?
I can't hear you.
I know, really.
Until I say recover, just come back and down. Cover, bayonet! Come back. Just take your bayonet off like you put it on his back.
When the fight was in camp, in the garrison duty, 1.6 months.
One has prepared. People keep walking in front, I can't see.
Well, then stop filming. Remember, we want this smooth and fast. You gotta beat the enemy. Close into the corporal. Close into the corporal. Close to your right. Close into him. Okay.
Uh-oh. You also got the last
Load! You need to prepare the load. Why didn't you prepare the load?
Bryce is here drilling him again.
Shoulder! Right! Caps on these little adjustments. Cap on, ready to fire. All the way. Ready! One quick. Why are you not? Then why are you taking so much time to click it? No, I mean, no, it's twice. Ready! Hey! Fire!
Boom.
Go left. March. Left. Left. Turn right. He turns left. Right.
Hey, it's John.
Left. Left. Guide around. Left. Guide around. They ignored me.
Show us your stuff, Kayla.
What?
This is my horsey.
What's your horsey?
I like him. He's like speckled. My little pony. My little pony. I want to ride him. I haven't raced him a while. Funny.
I didn't have to do that.
The number 1, 2, and 3 man get off. The number 1 is either corporal or sergeant. 1, 2, and 3. But we ride in a group of 4. Why does the 4th person stay on the horse?
Hey. I think it was like a my time.
I'm taking this to my black rifle. When you put the powder in the rifle,
Can't resist the urge anymore. Wow, okay.
1, 2, 3, that's all you need.
Yeah, it is. Nice and funny.
I like it. First squad, up, out.
It's like salty.
Oh, come back. You gotta get them about facing. I may not have made myself clear. Hang it.
So now you've seen the average size you are. Let me throw it up into a quick question.
Out.
Question.
I think it died.
Do I get a question out?
I hope not.
Around there. All right.
This side, let's see who can come up with a better question. This side versus this side. Let's see if we can each have a anybody got a question so far? Young lady up front, got a question, I can see. All right, I'll ask you.
Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes.
What? Wait, you do that and then how? Oh, you just step sideways? God, it's okay. Catch. Dude. That kills. I love it. I'm done.
Do that again.
Oh my God. Keep going.
Can you do?
I'm done.
Can you do this?
Oh, hammer. Yeah.
Because you can be like.
How much part does it have?
It looks like a hammerhead. A little. I do the other one.
The other one. Now I'm tip.
Every time I want to play
Oh, wait.
Every time I want to play winner, I'm called it.
No, we're going to do the sprinkler.